Hook. They say history is written by the victors. But what if even the victors never knew the truth? Long before pyramids kissed the desert sky, before kings wore crowns or soldiers raised swords, there was a world that remembered everything and then forgot. Buried beneath layers of sand, ice, and silence lies a truth so ancient, so forbidden, that every empire, from Babylon to Washington, has tried to erase it. This is not just the story of mankind. This is the story of what came before mankind. Chapter 1. The Lost Beginning. The year was unknown. The stars shone brighter, the air heavier, as if the earth herself was younger, breathing slower. In the far corners of what would one day be called Mesopotamia, the ground trembled beneath colossal stone circles, structures far older than any civilization history dares to remember. No names were written, no voices survived, yet every grain of dust held a whisper, "We were here before you." Archaeologists in the 21st century believed they had uncovered everything, the temples, the gods, the bones of forgotten kings. But one discovery, hidden from the public eye, shattered the foundation of modern history. It was 1983, a joint excavation between American and Turkish researchers in the ruins near Göbekli Tepe stumbled upon a sealed underground chamber. Inside, there were tablets, not of clay, but of a metal no one could identify. On their surfaces, carved with precision beyond Bronze Age capability, were symbols that did not match Sumerian, Egyptian, or any known script. When decoded decades later using quantum imaging, one line stood out. The first kingdom fell not by war, but by forgetting. The lead archaeologist, Dr. Howard Grant, vanished 2 weeks after the discovery. His notes were confiscated, his research declared classified by national interest. Yet, fragments of his recordings leaked years later. In one tape, Grant's trembling voice whispered, "The truth predates Adam." The story could have ended there. But in 2025, deep in a private archive in Virginia, a forgotten box labeled HG Confidential was uncovered. Inside, yellowed photographs of metallic tablets, drawings of vast underground halls, and a map stretching from Turkey through the Middle East, across the Atlantic, pointing towards Central America. Someone had connected ancient Sumeria with the Mayan world. Two civilizations separated by oceans and millennia, yet the symbols matched perfectly. Across the ocean, in the heart of Guatemala, archaeologist Elena Ward had been chasing a myth. Local tribes spoke of the builders of the sky, a race who taught men to write, measure, and dream, and then vanished into the stars. When she received an anonymous email containing photos of Dr. Grant's metallic tablets, her pulse froze. Because in her last dig, beneath the Mayan temple, she had found an identical piece of the same unknown alloy, engraved with the same 3 words, "We remember first." Elena's research revealed a disturbing pattern. Every great civilization, from Egypt to the Olmecs, from Sumeria to the Navajo myths, spoke of teachers from the dawn. They came when the sky burned red, taught humans knowledge beyond their age, and vanished after a great flood or fire. What if they were not gods? What if they were the survivors of an older Earth, a civilization that ended long before our recorded time began? And what if every empire since then, from Rome to America, was unknowingly repeating their rise and their fall? That night, as thunder rolled over the Guatemalan jungle, Elena laid the 2 metallic fragments side by side. They fit together, seamlessly, and when moonlight touched the engraved lines, the metal emitted a faint pulse, like a heartbeat. She gasped. The pattern wasn't random. It was a star map, not of our modern sky, but the heavens as they appeared 12,000 years ago, right before the last ice age ended, right before humanity began. Elena realized with horror and awe, the world we call ancient might actually be the second version of Earth's civilization. The first one died, not by war, not by time, but by something deeper, something erased from memory itself. She wrote one final note in her journal. The secret that time forgot was never lost. It was hidden, waiting for us to remember again. And that's when the lights went out. To be continued. Next chapter, The Empire Before Eden, where the forbidden origins of civilization are revealed.
We now move into Chapter 2, The Empire Before Eden, continuing your 100,000-plus words cinematic historical saga, The Secret That Time Forgot. Here, we'll travel back before history began, to a forgotten civilization that shaped every empire since.
The cycle returns. Memory must awaken. Elena stared at the words. Her breath froze. This wasn't an artifact. It was a warning. The Secret Keepers. A week later, 2 men in dark suits arrived at her research site. They claimed to be from an American agency, showing credentials she couldn't verify. They took her notes, her data drives, the metallic tablets. When she asked why, the taller man replied, "History is safer when it's incomplete." By morning, her lab was gone, emptied, erased, and sealed under government order. But what they didn't know, Elena had hidden one fragment, the smallest piece of the metal plate, still pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat from another age. She stared at it under the moonlight, and for a brief second, it whispered her name. The legacy of the First Empire. Humanity built its world on ruins, never realizing those ruins were once the greatest cities on Earth. The gods, the myths, the miracles were echoes of people who once walked among us. They are gone now, or perhaps not gone. For if the cycle returns and the stars align once again, then the empire before Eden may rise from the deep to reclaim the world it once ruled. To be continued. Next chapter, The Architects of Memory, where Elena uncovers the hidden order that has guarded this secret for millennia, and how it connects to modern America's most powerful families. We now enter Chapter 3, The Architects of Memory, the next step in your 100,000-plus word cinematic history saga, The Secret That Time Forgot. This chapter connects the ancient lost empire to modern America, revealing how secret societies, hidden archives, and powerful families have preserved fragments of that forgotten knowledge. Chapter 3, The Architects of Memory. The deeper Elena dug, the clearer it became. The world's greatest empires were never built by chance. They were guided. Each rising civilization carried a faint echo of the one that came before it, like a repeating dream that humanity could never wake from. But who was guiding it now, and why? The Whispering Files. It began with an encrypted drive sent anonymously to Elena's new address in Virginia. Inside was a folder titled Architects. The files contained declassified military memos, meeting notes from the 1940s, and strange blueprints marked with the seal of the U.S. Department of Defense. At first glance, they looked unrelated. A Cold War radar experiment, a project for geo-resonant energy fields, and satellite images of ancient ruins in Turkey and Antarctica. But one line in a report from 1952 changed everything. All findings related to resonant sites must be transferred to the custodians. No one knew who the custodians were, no agency, no official branch. But every document since the 1940s referenced them in connection with archaeological sites, astronomical research, and memory experiments. The custodians. Through leaked archives and coded messages from an unknown contact, Elena traced the custodians' origins to 1776, the very same year the United States declared independence. Hidden in the early minutes of history, a private group of scholars and financiers gathered in Philadelphia. They called themselves the Society of Architects. Their goal was to build a new world, not only politically, but spiritually, a reconstruction of the lost order of Atlantis. Their emblem was a pyramid with a single radiant eye, the same symbol printed centuries later on the U.S. dollar bill. What most people never realized was that the eye was not a symbol of God watching over man. It was the memory of the builders, the survivors who once watched over time. The Founding Fathers didn't invent the American dream. They inherited it from something ancient. The Capitol below. Washington, D.C. was not chosen randomly. Its geographic coordinates, its layout, even the alignment of its monuments were based on geometric ratios identical to those used in the ruins of Egypt and Sumer. Modern urban planners dismissed it as coincidence, but a declassified map found in the architect's folder showed an underground network below the Capitol, a vault dating back to 1791, built directly beneath the Library of Congress. The name of the vault? Vault A9, Memory Chamber. Rumors among early Freemasons claimed that George Washington himself was initiated into a ritual involving a metallic tablet of the first light. The tablet was said to glow when exposed to moonlight during certain solstices. Was it myth? Or was it one of the fragments Elena had rediscovered centuries later? The letter from 1933. Among the files was an old letter, handwritten on parchment, dated March 1933. It was addressed to President Franklin Roosevelt by a man identified only as H.G.
Mr. President, the resonance below the Capitol has intensified. The fragments must not be reunited. Their awakening could unravel all memory. The last time it happened, the world drowned. At the bottom of the page, the same signature mark found on the tablets, a circular symbol with 3 intersecting lines representing time, memory, and rebirth. H.G. Howard Grant. The same archaeologist who disappeared in 1983. Had he survived, or was someone using his name across decades? Echoes in the present. Determined to uncover the truth, Elena traveled to Washington under a false identity. Using stolen credentials from a Smithsonian contact, she gained access to the Library of Congress archives after hours. Hidden between shelves of Civil War documents was a locked iron door marked Restricted, Level 9. Inside, a narrow staircase spiraled downward into darkness. At the bottom was a circular chamber lined with stone far older than the building above it. And there, embedded in the floor, was a metallic plate identical to her fragment. It pulsed faintly as she approached, its rhythm syncing with her heartbeat. When she touched it, her mind flooded with images, cities of light, oceans swallowing towers, voices crying in a language she didn't know but somehow understood. One phrase echoed through the vision. "The Empire remembers you." And then everything went black. The Memory Architects. When Elena awoke, she was in a marble chamber lit by flickering torches. Across the room stood a man in a gray suit, his face calm, but his eyes sharp with knowledge. "You've seen it," he said quietly. "Few ever do and remain sane." He introduced himself as Samuel Carter, an agent of the custodians, a descendant of the original architects. "For centuries," he said, "we've guarded fragments of the first light, not to hide them, but to prevent humanity from repeating its oldest mistake, trying to control memory itself." Elena demanded the truth. Who were they? What were they hiding from the world? Carter handed her a small crystal device, its core swirling with faint blue light.
This contains the archive, the story of everything that ever was and everything that will be again. But the time is running out, Dr. Ward. The alignment is near. And when the stars return to their positions, the walls between past and present will collapse. The choice. Elena faced a decision. Expose the truth, risk chaos and disbelief, or protect it, joining the custodians as one of the new architects of memory. For the first time, she understood that history was not a line. It was a circle, and humanity was approaching the same point again. The same arrogance, the same experiment, the same fall. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Then maybe this time we can remember before we forget." Carter smiled faintly. Or perhaps, Dr. Ward, memory was never meant to be remembered. To be continued. Next chapter, The Cycle Awakens. Where the stars align once more, the lost energy begins to stir beneath the earth, and the forgotten empire prepares to rise again in the modern world.
The alignment begins. The stars were returning to their ancient positions. Elena stared at the metal fragment in her hand, now glowing steadily, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath her fingertips. Every map she had studied, every tablet she had touched, had pointed to this moment, 2029, the exact alignment of the first light, and the Earth had begun to respond. Seismic readings spiked across the globe. Volcanoes erupted along long dormant fault lines. Magnetic poles fluctuated, throwing compasses and satellites into chaos. Air traffic controllers called it a global anomaly. But for Elena, Carter, and the custodians, it was unmistakable. The cycle was awakening. The lost cities stir. Beneath the Atlantic, sonar images showed movement in the ruins of Atlantis. Huge structures, previously considered rock formations, shifted as though breathing. Deep under the Sahara, hidden pyramids emitted low-frequency vibrations, resonating with the crystal fragments in Elena's possession. The builders of the sky, the first empire, long erased from memory, was not gone. It was waiting. Governments react. In Washington, D.C., emergency meetings were called behind closed doors. Military scientists reported unexplainable gravitational anomalies. Officials dismissed the claims of mythical alignment as conspiracy theories, yet top generals could not ignore the data. Carter moved swiftly. The custodians mobilized hidden agents worldwide to secure key sites, from the Mayan ruins in Guatemala to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey and the submerged cities off the Azores. Time was running out. Elena's vision. Holding the fragment, Elena closed her eyes. Her mind traveled through millennia. The builders teaching humans to write, to measure, to dream. Civilizations rising and falling, always guided by fragments of memory. The catastrophe that destroyed the First Empire, a flood of power that erased the memory of mankind itself. She realized something terrifying. The cycle didn't just repeat, it escalated. Each awakening risked unleashing not just knowledge, but destructive energy, the very energy that ended Atlantis. The choice of humanity. Standing in the underground chamber beneath Washington, with Carter at her side, Elena placed the fragment into a crystalline console hidden within the memory chamber.
The console pulsed, and a holographic projection filled the room, a vision of the first empire in all its glory, floating cities, glowing towers, energy fields bending matter. "You can reconnect humanity," Carter said, "or sever the cycle forever. One choice will awaken knowledge and power. The other will bury it until the next alignment." Elena hesitated. She felt the weight of millennia pressing down. Could humanity handle the truth of the builders? Could the world survive the energy they once wielded? The awakening. She made her choice. With trembling hands, she activated the console. The chamber shook violently. The crystal fragments resonated in harmony. A beam of blue light shot through the ceiling, piercing the night sky. Across the planet, devices resonated. Ruins began to glow faintly. A deep hum echoed from the Atlantic Ocean, the first empire waking from a 12,000-year slumber. People around the world felt it, a strange energy, like a pulse through the planet itself. For a moment, humanity glimpsed the memory of the builders, cities of light, knowledge of the stars, and the power to shape reality itself. The revelation. Elena's voice echoed across the console. We remember what was forgotten." But even as the energy pulsed, Carter whispered, "The builders warned us, memory without wisdom can destroy." The holographic image of Atlan projected a single warning: only those who respect the cycle may endure. Elena understood. The builders had given humanity a second chance, a chance to learn from the past, not repeat it. And now the responsibility rested on every conscious mind to use the memory wisely, to guide civilization without repeating the mistakes of Atlan. Epilogue. The new dawn. The alignment passed. The energy subsided. The first empire returned to its slumber, leaving fragments of wisdom scattered across the earth. Elena emerged from the memory chamber with the fragments safely contained in a private archive. The custodians had expanded, an international network of historians, scientists, and scholars tasked with guiding humanity quietly, preserving the balance between knowledge and safety. The world had glimpsed the builder's secret. Some would call it myth, others truth. But one thing was certain: history was no longer linear. It was a living cycle, and humanity had just awakened to its place within it. Elena gazed at the stars. Somewhere deep beneath the oceans and deserts, the builders watched, and for the first time in 12,000 years, the memory of the first light was alive in the minds of mankind again.